very, very warm welcome to Ambassador Karl-Erik Norman and the opening panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, and nice to be here. And I think it's a very good initiative to, I think it's the first time, is it, that we do something in connection with the Berlinale? Yeah. Okay, the second time. But anyway, I think it's a very good idea because, after all, the world is observing Berlin these days. Well, the world, I guess, is observing Sochi to some extent as well. But I guess for us people in this room, the Berlinale is even more important than the Olympic Games in Sochi. Isn't that so? Anyway, we are dealing with so many various aspects of culture. Sometimes with students and with auditoriums here, we discuss a little bit what is culture and what is cultural diplomacy, of course. And there are hardly any limits for the definition of culture. Culture can be mankind, can be civilization, can be way of life, and so on. But normally we are trying to narrow it down to the kind of responsibilities that a normal minister of culture would have, namely the arts, the fine arts, the theater, the concert music, museums, and the film. Many countries, even the public sector, take a responsibility in film. Today we have two representatives of Scandinavian film production, and I would say that in Scandinavia the tradition of the public sector taking a responsibility for film production and promoting film production is rather strong. This tradition is strong. I would like, before I forget it, to mention one thing that is very much in my mind these days. It has to do with film, it has to do with other things as well. It's about the free trade negotiations between the European Union and the United States. And there is something called exception culturelle. And that is an initiative, a French initiative from the beginning. But it was taken then by the European Parliament as its policy, namely to say that cultural matters, not least film, has to be taken out, be considered as an exception from the free trade negotiation between Europe and the United States. Because European film, with its enormous diversity, after all, we have 28 members of the European Union, we have 24 official languages, and it is, from a cultural point of view, extremely important that this great the richness of cultural production, not least film production, be preserved and not threatened by a complete opening of the doors, leaving European film that open for the so-called market, because the market can be a very ugly animal. Now, after that, a little introduction which I want to plant in your minds. I will ask Tobias and Jannik to present themselves, because I don't have your CV in the head back of my. Give me just a minute of presentation. Who you are, Tobias?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me. My name is Tobias Janson. I'm producer and CEO of the Swedish production company called Story. We're based in Stockholm. We're mainly focusing in documentary film or fiction film with a strong documentary expression. This has been our core business for 15 years. I've been in the company for 5 years. Since I started, we had premieres here in Berlin at the Berlinale, such as the Black Power mixtape 3 years ago. We had Belleville Baby last year, and this year we're here with a film called Concerning Violence, which is Göran Hugo Olsson, the director's vision and discussion of the post-colonial struggle in Africa. We can also talk a bit about our work with international co-productions. We work a lot with other European countries when we produce films, because this is a necessity, even if, as Karl-Erik said, we have a very strong local funding in Sweden. My rather modest budgets for documentary films still needs to be funded from colleagues and funds outside of Sweden. So I work a lot with the other Nordic countries, Denmark, Finland, and Norway foremost. But also we co-produce with Germany, France, United States, South Africa, other countries, both to fund our films, to make them possible to produce, but also to reach out. Because once you have a strong local connection in a territory for your film, you also know that someone is going to work for it and bring it out to the audience in this territory.
Thank you, Tobias. Jannik, a few words about your background.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. My name is Jannik. You should know from the start that I have the speech thing. I stutter, so just so you know, that's why I talk like I do. I'm a screenwriter. I've been writing screenplays for film and TV series for like 12 years, I think, and I've mainly written for children and young adults, because I'm very interested in the period of your life where it seems like everything means so much more than it means when you're a grown-up, and where life goes from being unspoiled by anything to being spoiled by disappointments and cynicism and stuff like that. And I've been trying for like the last few years to also write for other people in other countries. I've been writing on a screenplay for for a Slovak director, and also I've been talking to some German people and stuff, because I'm more and more interested in trying to like combine the traditions that I have been growing up with, like a northern melancholic tradition of telling stories, and try to like combine that with the traditions that other countries might have.
Thank you very much, Jannik. I think we shall go right into business, because you have brought something, and we don't have that much time, do we? We have only till 11:30. Correct?
We can go 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, exactly. So you have you want to show and the contribution here of.
Yeah, I will try to be very brief, because I thought it would be interesting for you to see this. We just as a background, the film that we have here at the Berlinale concerning violence. It will be the original version. So there's a lot of text in the film. It's built on a book by Frantz Fanon, which is now it's a philosophy classic. It's called The Wretched of the Earth, and the film is based on this text. There's a lot of text in the screen. There's a lot of text read. So to be able to communicate this film to as many people as possible in their mother tongue, we are making versions of the film. The first version is the English version. It's narrated by Lauryn Hill, which is pop singer, rapper, formerly in the band Fugees. We are right now working with French, German, Portuguese, Finnish, Danish, Arabic, Farsi, Persian, I'm surely forgetting some languages, but we're going to do this film in a lot of language versions.
I think you said Russian as well.
Russian,
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
We have an example of this that I would like to show you. We made the trailer. It's a very short trailer in at least 7 of these languages. So I just show you a couple, just to give an idea how it's going to look.
Ja. There you are.
Is there sound?
Not much.
Can you put it louder? Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, there needs to be an audio cable here, I think.
Ah, it's not connected. I think we connected already up, so it's my fault here.
Le colonialisme n'est pas une machine à penser. Ce n'est pas un corps doué de raison. Il est la violence à l'état de nature. Il ne peut s'incliner que devant une plus grande violence.
Der Kolonialismus ist keine Denkmaschine, kein vernunftbegabter Körper. Er ist die Gewalt im Naturzustand und kann sich nur einer noch größeren Gewalt beugen.
So yeah, anyway, this is just a sample. We're going to hire high-profile persons in each of the language territories also to help us reach out with this film, because this is a film on a topic that is to start with quite theoretical, but what we really want to do is to bring it out and make it accessible and open for public debate and discussion. The use of, for instance, Lauryn Hill in the whole English-speaking regions is not only because of her being famous, of course, that's one issue, but also because this text really connects with her. She has been reading it. She has been reading Fanon when she was studying university. And when we contacted her to actually do the voice, she was in prison in the US, and she was reading Fanon back also then when she was spending time in prison in the US.
I think you'd better tell who Fanon was.
Yeah, okay, so a little background. Frantz Fanon, he was a psychiatrist, born of Martinique, French colony. He was coming to Europe to study and found himself as a colored man in Europe completely estranged, and he started to discuss and write and think about the roots of racism, of colonialism, and he became one of. He had a book called White Face, Black Masks, which was a classic. He also just before dying wrote this book, The Wretched of the Earth, and he died in 1961, only 36 years old. But he is a very influential figure in the theory of post-colonialism, and we want to lift him up, and we want to make this text again accessible, and because looking at the state of the world today in so many post-colonial regions, this text has not, unfortunately, gone out of fashion. It's still a very, very useful and interesting tool to understand the mechanics in the world. So we do this by using the Swedish archive. What you saw here is a small part of archival footage that is constructed in the film. During the 60s and 70s, and along also the 80s, you must say, the Swedish National Television, SVT, had a very strong idea about depicting the world through Swedish eyes and try to report back to the Swedish people with some sort of independent look upon the rest of the world, which meant that they spent big resources to send people out to different regions and to make films and to make television reportage, and these were transmitted in the 2 channels that were available for Swedish people. This also means that the footage that they collected built up an archive that is very interesting for us filmmakers today, because it has lots of images that you don't find elsewhere. And as a Swedish producer, also with experience from the film The Black Power mixtape that was made a few years ago, that also only built on archival footage material, it was natural for us to start this cooperation with SVT, the television company. And together with them, we were able to finalize this film, because archival footage is extremely expensive to buy normally. As a producer, you can barely afford it. But when you cooperate with the owner of the material, it becomes easier. So this is the backstory of this film, and also a little introduction on how we think around it reaching out in the world and to be a tool for discussion and maybe also a political tool. This is, I think, a very important mission that film has.
I think that is very interesting, and it's a fantastic treasure that we have. I say we because being a Swede, we have back in Stockholm. It makes a person of my generation rather nostalgic, because in the 70s, for instance, I was rather active in development assistance, and the new partners, the new countries of the world. After all, it was in the 60s. It's ironic that he would die exactly 1961, because these are the years when so many African states, for instance, finally got their freedom. Some countries still had to fight till 1975, and one country, Zimbabwe, if I remember correctly, till 1981. But anyway, this was very much on everybody's mind at the time. And I sometimes feel, and that's why I think it's important that such films are produced, I sometimes feel that this, what we simply called international solidarity, that was the term which was used at the time in the 90s. I see that very seldom today. You speak a lot about other aspects of the role of the market in the world. You speak about intercultural dialogue, etc., etc. But this international solidarity, meaning a solidarity with countries which are in their first steps of development, and also still have to fight with the reminiscences of colonialism and imperialism and so on. This kind of debate is something which I guess your generation mainly are rather little confronted with. Am I right? I think so. So it's very good that it comes, and that this debate, and this is what cultural diplomacy is also about, and this is what culture should be about, what film could be about, is of course that it could be sometimes, it could be political, and it could have messages, it could be some sort of wake-up calls for authorities, for establishments, for politicians, etc. And that's why this is interesting. May I ask Jannik to tell us briefly about the film you have presented here in Berlin last Monday, I think.
Yes, you may. We did, it's an animation film. It's called Beyond Beyond. It's about a small rabbit boy who goes to a place called the land of the Feather King to get back his mom. And the whole story is like he doesn't realize that she is actually dead, and therefore he's actually able to go and see her, even though that shouldn't be possible. But we really wanted to try to describe the place where, as a child, you do not really know what's impossible or what's possible, and therefore you can sometimes actually do stuff that shouldn't be possible, but is just because you try. And we wanted to make a story that's about death, but not in a sad way. We wanted to try to be able to create a platform for children and parents to be able to talk about death, because we find that, at least in Denmark, there's been in the school system for quite a long time, a kind of teachers and the school system was scared of talking to children about death, which meant that most children, even when they didn't feel that they were allowed to actually talk about it. And we found it important to start with, just to we talked a lot about that now we want to make a platform that children can also see and that children can also enjoy, but that also gives them something to talk about and perhaps a language to talk about it with. And right now the production company that we made the film with are talking to some global organizations about, I know that the film is now going to Zanzibar to be shown to orphan children. There's also, we're trying to get it to Haiti as well. So, in a way, we also, I mean, we're trying to make a film that hopefully will sell a lot of theater tickets and stuff. But in the same hand, we're also really trying to like get it out into the world, because we find that to be important.
Yes, beyond, that means it's kind of beyond this life and beyond death and so on. It gives any Swede, and perhaps many others as well, an association to Astrid Lindgren's famous story, it was Rickard Lejonhjärta. Yeah, the brothers Lejonhjärta. Anybody read that or saw it on film? No? Well, it was, because this was also about the other land, the brother is dead and so on. So it is, it seems to be a Scandinavian tradition. Try to deal with this very difficult, very sensitive issue of what is death? What happens if you die? And how do you deal with it as a child? How do you deal with sorrow, or how do you kind of continue in your mind, and perhaps even keeping the relation with the dear one who is dead and so on. So it's a very deep, fantastic issue, which is fascinating. It's a normal film length, I understand.
Yeah, it's a feature film.
80 minutes, yeah. So, well, that's at this stage now. I want you to ask. Then we will speak a little bit about Berlinale. But please ask the gentlemen here about their films. Questions.
Any comments or questions regarding?
Or comments? Yes.
I really...
Everyone stand up, say your name and where you're from or something, so we can get to know.
Okay, my name is Veronica and I'm from Poland. And I really like your idea of using a film like a springboard, a starting point for a discussion, especially a documentary film. But my experience is working with 2 film festivals in Poland, Watch Dogs, which is in Warsaw, and Krakow Film Festival in Krakow, which both promote documentaries. Is unfortunately in Poland the audience for this kind of films is quite limited. So it really raises my spirits to see a big cinema filled with people, right, who came there to watch a documentary. But I'm afraid that it pretty much exhausts the audience, you know. It's really very difficult for even documentaries with full feature film length to be shown at regular cinemas. And I think that this kind of films, even very valuable ones, have very limited impact because there is this barrier for the distribution. And I'm wondering whether the situation is different in Sweden, and whether you find it easier in Sweden to promote your films and to show them to wider public, and maybe what are the sources of assistance that you receive to promote your film?
Thanks a lot for the question. It's a situation. Do you hear?
Yeah, your phone is
the situation in Sweden is not very different from the one in Poland. We have you can get any kind of independent production or documentary or like more narrow fiction film can get distribution support. You can use that to market your film and to put it up in a few cinemas around Sweden, if you're granted the support. But we struggle. You touch on a very important subject for me personally, because as a documentary producer, I am very much always involved in producing. The act of producing is very time-consuming, and you're always with your hands in some practical aspect of all the films that are being produced all the time in our company. So what I struggle to do is to create time and space actively. People get together and discussing how can we use this particular film's strengths to reach through this, as you describe it, pretty difficult wall that is put up by the distribution system and also by the perception of documentary in general. And this is very different from different films. Every film has to be handled in its own way, and I'm thinking for the film that you currently saw, you can say already by playing it in Sundance, it premiered in Sundance, which is the biggest independent film festival in the world. It reaches an audience that is not super big on the place, but it foremost reaches the buyers, the journalists, the distributors, the television channels. Everyone sees your film if it's presented in this sort of exclusive spot. So this is not, and in that way, you all of a sudden have an advantage to start with, because you know that at least you're going to reach the festival audiences.
And Sundance is taking place where and when?
Sundance is taking place in Utah, in the Rocky Mountains, on the last weekend of January, normally. And it's sort of small festival in the way that it's quite exclusive in how many films it puts compared to the Berlinale. But it's on the North American continent, it's very influential, and also festival people like yourself, maybe, or other festival people also gather there, as here in Berlin. So then you know that, okay, so the first maybe box is ticked because you can reach the audiences that are already interested in what you're making, you know, the festival audiences. But then the much trickier question is how to reach outside of that sphere. And then in a film you can have a topic that you can lean yourself to. You can launch, if you're doing a film about, like another film that I did about a Palestinian man falling in love with an Israeli woman, them marrying and trying to fight for their right to live together. Then you will have to focus on this thing to create a newspaper story about them and trying to get them to come to the different places where the film is screened and reach out of the culture sites and try to get them on commercial radio and talk about this love affair and in the morning sofas in television. So and you need time and you need money to do this. So it's not obvious in all of the film productions, but this is something that we work a lot with. But as always, we need a bigger movement in our back. We need also the help of other filmmakers and journalists and funding community to make this happen on a bigger scale. And
what about public service television channels in Sweden, in strong public service countries like Germany, France, etc.?
My experience is that they're struggling. They have a difficult position now because their role as the people's...
yeah, but would they take a film like this?
Yeah, well, we have sold it to the Scandinavian countries.
Okay, so that's already done?
That's already done, but that's a very small part, and they sort of feel personally involved in this film because it's their archives we're using. We're yet to see if, like Arte here in Germany and France, picks it up. We're yet to see if a big public service network in the US will pick it up, because it's a tricky, you know, they haven't seen this kind of film before. Well, they haven't really experienced doing anything with this kind of film, so we have to sort of help them a bit. But on a general, only like 10-15 years ago, public service television was the main funder and the main source for documentary filmmakers to reach out to an audience. Now it's still like that in many places, but it's getting more and more complex because
it's tough.
Yeah,
yes.
And they have they're not the obvious center point anymore. They're not the focal point of the societies anymore necessarily. When they succeed to be that, they're doing musical festivals, things, and play programs and stuff like this. And this puts them in a very vulnerable position because they're not people who really want to do that. So that makes them, you know, they want to do things that they think are important and also educational and
they have
promoting.
They have a responsibility.
They do.
There,
They do.
yes.
They have
Yeah.
a big responsibility to be the fuel that sparks the discussion about democracy. You know,
Yeah.
they have to really be that. So you know, they have a bit of a tricky time, but I'm a very happy payer of my public service license still, you know, because I think still they do contribute in Sweden, definitely. You know, it's still a strong contribution with discussion and with films.
Fine. One more question, please. Shoot.
When you mention the name Frans Fanon, certain alarms start going off with certain people all around the world. In certain circles, just mentioning his name would be subversive. Now, you talked about the American market, and certainly the genre of documentary films is provocative in and of itself. Yeah. And everyone understands that. But in today's world of NSA and all of that implies, what barriers do you think that you're confronted with in a realistic sense in terms of breaching the American market, other than places like Sundance, which are so great courage in showing documentary films and whatnot? What barriers are you facing? You know,
there are huge barriers because the commercial industry owns the media in US, not only in US but in very many places of the world, and they're not interested in subversive voices. So we try to you know, get around and try to make it something important. We want everyone who's dating a girl for the first time impress her by saying that, by mentioning Fanon's name, you know, because this is something that you have to know, otherwise you're not grounded in yourself. So, you know, this is our mission. And this, you know, things like this spread, not necessarily through central media, but it spreads out, it takes other routes. So, but sure, the obstacles are big, and it's something that also takes time. You know, you have to work a long time to exhaust all the means to get there.
Thank you. I will ask Jannik now. Was this the first time you attended Berlinale?
No.
Second, third?
No, we've had me and the director who made the film was here the first time like 8 years ago, I think, with a short film, and then 3 years ago with the first feature film we did together, and now with this. So we have like a longish and dear relationship to the.
Okay. And what is the Berlinale like? If you are a film, well, you're a scriptwriter, but what is it like to come here? Is it important, or is it just a show, a lot of party, and so on, or is it really an important instrument for film presentation?
To us,
Platform.
making children's film, it's the most important festival we could get at, because there's a very long tradition at the Berlinale. I think it's like 34 years or something. There's been this generation part of the Berlinale, and they take children's films really seriously. So to us, it's the most important place we could be at. And it, like with the last film we did, and we hope also with this, it really like kick-started it and got it all over the world. So there's no place better for us to be, we think.
Okay. And what is the Berlinale for you?
Berlinale is not only one of the best ways to promote your film internationally to the market, but for us it's also the festival of the people. It's the audience festival. When you go to Cannes or Venice or well, other more prestigious festivals, even Sundance. You can feel that these festivals are not meant for the audience really.
They are only the profis.
Yeah, more or less. But in Berlin, we had 3 screenings of this film so far. All of them more than 400 seats per screening, and we sold out every seat. And this is amazing, coming as a producer of these kinds of films and just filling the seats, and people stay afterwards to discuss. This is Berlinale for me.
It's a
this
dream.
Is, yeah, no, you know, this is Berlinale also, because the people who go, they're pretty damn sure what they're going to put down on the program. You know, they read properly. They really make conscious choices, and they gather here during this time to see as much film as possible. And that's such a great kick to be in an environment like that. It's amazing to have the response afterwards, the screenings.
That's very good. Final questions on the Berlinale. Then we have to, please, or on the films. Yeah.
I've got a question, but not about Berlinale, about your film, about language versions actually, because I used to read Fanon at the university, and I had to do it in English, and it was very difficult for me because I'm not an English native speaker, obviously. But I've got a feeling that when you choose to do different language versions, it's still very exclusive, because you can't translate it to every language in the world. So how do you do that?
We don't have the ambition to translate to every language of the world. That would be impossible. We will try and do as many as possible, and if not the mother tongue, at least people hopefully can get it in their second language, maybe. But you know, still, if you cover English, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, German, Swahili, Japanese, Chinese, Mandarin, Farsi. You know, we have a lot of language. We have 15 language versions already, trying to map out as big parts of the world as possible. Of course, we can't cover everything, but the ambition is to make as many people as possible, to make it possible for them to see it in their mother tongue. And also to do it in a way, you know, this is not a very, you read the text, you know, it's not a very easy text. We picked the first chapter and the last chapter. Already that is a lot of text, so we edited that down a lot. We worked a lot with the text to sort of both synthesize together what is poetic and what is really crucial in his thinking. So you know, this is also a treatment of us to make the text more accessible in a way, you know. So exclusive or not, I don't agree with you that it's exclusive, but still I definitely respect.
Well, it takes some extra money to do the translations.
That's it. Also, so we can do maybe 4 or 5 on our own budget versions, but then also we have to get a little. It's not much, but we have to get a couple of thousand euros from each distributor in each territory. It's not much. Then we can ourselves make it very quickly.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question for Jannik. You know, I'm just very curious, like, you're a script writer. What inspires you to write the film, and why for children?
Where's your...
What inspires me the most is memories from my own childhood. And why I write for children and young adults is because I think they're so responsive as an audience. If you actually, I mean, I have films or TV shows and stuff that I saw as a child, and that has defined me as a person. in a way that not many other things have done. And if you make a film or something that a child likes, they'll perhaps see it like 40 times, 50 times, they just keep on. Where adults see something perhaps one time and they like it, but right after they leave the cinema, mostly they just like forget about it. So I mean, that to me makes telling stories for children so important, because you can, in a way, at least be able to try to define so much of how they perceive the world.
Do you have children yourself?
I have one young boy. He's 3, and I have a girl on the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one final question. Oh, go. I say.
I think maybe all the final questions
Yeah.
and then make a
Very quick.
Hi, I'm
question.
Simona from Italy. I just maybe it's a broad question, but I wanted to ask you your opinion about crowdfunding in film production, and if you have like some opinions. Like in Sundance, there was a presentation of this platform called Passion First. So just wanted to know your opinion. I mean, all of you. Like.
Funding, yes, and the second. Yep.
It's for Jannik, and it's so if animations often use fantasy worlds, and but equally many animations tend to sort of signpost or signboard their cultural identity, such as Winnie the Pooh. I think it was heavily adapted when it went to Russia, and they felt it was a really Soviet expression of Winnie the Pooh. And I was just wondering whether you see sort of, but they had to cut out Christopher Robin because he apparently wasn't Soviet enough. But do you see it as a national space? I mean, do you feel you escape certain political things, or do you think they persist, or is childhood something that escapes the political or the national? I mean, you said you're putting yourself in a tradition of Danish melancholy storytelling. So yes, where just elaborate slightly on that. I'd be interested.
Thank you. I think this is it. You take the funding, and you take your question. Okay, please.
Yeah, crowdfunding is now a major thing to consider when you're producing, of course. For me, crowdfunding is, I think, a helpful tool. It would be helpful. I never started a crowdfunding campaign still, so that's how sort of old-fashioned I am. No, we're preparing right now. But
you are hoping you won't have to.
No, but definitely it's been around for like 5 to 10 years. Yeah. For me, it's a very good tool when working with outreach, because when the film is finished, you need another budget to do what we talked about, to make it, travel and go around. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You create your audience before the film is finished, essentially. Yeah. And for me, when you already have funded, and when you stand on a stable ground, whether it's a script or whether it's an idea for a documentary film, or even you have shot it already and editing it, then you can start to crowdfund, because then you're not depending on really changing your idea to what people wish. I think this is the danger with crowdfunding, that if you do it too early, you have to invent ideas that people already know that they want. You can't, it's very difficult to crowdfund an idea that people didn't know that they wanted. And this is a very important mission for culture.
That's a very important point.
Culture has to be unpredictable and
exactly,
and surprising. And then of course, when you're funding, you're always faced with this dilemma, because you have all the prejudices of the funders and the people with money anyway. But this is just my top of the head counter argument to crowdfunding. But that's in the early stages. I think it's a brilliant tool for the later stages of a production and for the outreach, because then you're doing two things at the same time. You're both building an audience and collecting money to build an even wider audience. And that makes sense.
Thank you, Tobias. Jannik, the question you... Winnie the Pooh.
When when we're trying to make these stories, we're trying to make them as general as we can, because they're about core emotions, and when we talked a lot about when we were like preparing it, that we would really like it to not be religious and to not be like specifically political. So we try to like make an alternative universe where we came up with the rules, and try to like make it mostly about the feelings of loss and sorrow and longing that we think every person in the world knows. But we actually, there is a tradition in Scandinavia of making like a bit heavy melancholic films. We've tried to make this more fun also, but we couldn't get, when we tried to get funding, we tried also to get it from Germany, but they said no, because they did not like to tell stories to children about death. Not the whole Germany said no, but these people that we tried to like get. But in Scandinavia that was much easier, because we have like a tradition of telling these
the Astrid Lindgren tradition, more or less.
So, and that's why we were also really glad to now then come to the Berlinale and these people who said no, and to talk to them about, well, do you still? And they actually still believe that it's not so, and it's okay, I think, also to disagree with this importance that we feel, but. So yeah, I'm not. I don't know if I answered your question, but I think we could only, to us at least, it feels that we could only make this film in Scandinavia. In like we had the major part done in Sweden and the minor part done in Denmark, because all other people that we've met from around the world find this theme to be very controversial.
Yeah. Well, that's the word controversial. I like that as a final word to this, because I think film should be controversial as its best. Okay, it can be entertainment as well, but we have enough entertainment, don't we, around the world. So if film is controversial, your way or your way, I think there is a strong message. And on this line, I think I thank the two guests, Tobias and Jannik, and we call this a meeting. Thank you.